In this demonstration, we are going to go through the process of backing up your Snipe-IT inventory system database, as well as any associated files such as attachments and pictures. We're also going to go through the process of upgrading the Snipe-IT inventory system to a new version. I'm also going to, along the way, provide you some applications that you may or may not decide to use. It may help you, especially if you are unfamiliar with the command line or uncomfortable with it. So the first thing we're going to do is open up our current installation of Snipe-IT inventory. And if you remember from my last video, I installed it with a localhost address. So I have nothing in here, and I am currently on 5.0.10, which is at this time also the newest version. So we can back up this Snipe-IT inventory system various ways, but I'm going to show you probably the best way. Well, it is the best way. The first thing we want to do is go up to the gears in the upper right hand corner, and we're going to click on that. And you're going to notice down here we have a backup option, and below it says download files and data. What this does is it will allow you to download both the MySQL database and any files associated with the Snipe-IT inventory installation that is necessary to upgrade or recover your inventory system. So we're going to use this, and then I'm going to show you a command line method as well. So the first thing we're going to do is click on backups, and then we're going to generate a backup. Depending on how much content you have, it may be fairly quick. My database, I have over 1,000 items in my inventory system, and my file size is only a few megabytes, so it's not a huge database. So we're going to click on here to download it, and we're going to talk about this file in a moment here, but I'm going to delete this now, and I'm going to show you another way of doing what we just did manually. Okay, we're going to go to snipeit.app.com. We're going to go to the documentation. Now in the documentation, you'll notice that there are command line utilities. If you click on there, it will show you how to perform various things within Snipe-IT by command line. So I'm going to click on configuring alerts and backups. Alright, now you'll notice that there are various commands in here, and they may seem confusing, and they actually apply in most cases to Linux. And you know that by just the word cron. Cron is a Linux thing. It's not a Windows thing. So we are going to look down here, running commands directly. You'll notice you have this command here, artisan Snipe-IT :backup. That is a Windows command that we can perform, and I'm going to show you how to do that. And we are going to run it first manually, and then I'm going to show you how to create a batch script. So I'm going to run cmd for my command window, and now I have to change my current directory to my Snipe installation. If you remember, all of your Snipe commands that you run have to be from WAMP, www, and then your Snipe-IT installation. So we want to copy this directory, and then we want to use cd to change the directory, and then place that address in there. We're going to hit enter. Alright, now we are in the correct directory to run our command. Alright, now that we're here, we are simply going to run this command, but we're going to only use the PHP artisan Snipe-IT :backup. So we're going to copy that, and we're going to paste that there and hit enter. and you'll see that our backup was completed. So let's go look for that backup. Alright, so we are going to go to, let me refresh. Alright, so where is it? Well, we have it here, but we can also go to the following directory. So we can go to run, or why don't we just do it the Windows way? We just go to our directory here. We're going to go to WAMP, www, Snipe-IT, and we're going to go to storage, and we're going to go to app, and then we're going to go to backups. And here is the backup that we just generated. So I'm going to cut and paste that here. Alright, so here's my backup. So how can I automate that? Well, we can create a little script. So I'm just going to bring up this script that I already created. And how do you create this? Well, you just open up Notepad, and you're going to type in echo off. Basically, this is to so that the command isn't repeated in the command window. We're going to put echo off, and then we're going to change our directory. If you remember, we had changed our directory earlier to the Snipe installation, and then we're going to run that PHP command. Now, once you have this done or in place, you just simply save as, and I'm going to save it to my desktop, and we'll call it Snipe-IT backup.bat. So we want to make sure that it's a batch file. Now you'll have a batch file. This is the one we just created. If you need to edit it, just right click and use your edit, or you can use edit with Notepad or whatever editor you're using, and to modify it. Now we can add to this. If you're familiar, you can with scripting, you can do this in PowerPoint, or I'm sorry, PowerShell, or you can use batch, or you can use VB script. It's really up to you, but we can further add on to this to move that file once it's created to a directory off that computer, which is advisable. That way, if your computer were to crash, you have your database and necessary files to recover your Snipe-IT inventory off that computer. So, alright, now if you recall, within this folder, or within this archive rather, there are multiple files, but if you simply double click onto it, you will only see the SQL database. So this is your database. There are no pictures or attachments. This is just the text and the tables for your inventory system. And if you just use Windows to extract the content, you will simply receive that database. Now, this is misleading because obviously there are more files within this system. So I encourage you to install a archive application such as 7-zip, whatever your flavor is, to decompress the archive. So I'm going to use 7-zip, and I'm going to extract it, and you'll notice now that there are additional files within the archive. So we have our database, and then we have various files that we need to restore our inventory system. So this is one of the most important. This is your configuration for the Snipe-IT installation. Alright, so now that we have that, why didn't we use MySQL commands? Well, you certainly can use the MySQL commands, or you can even use something like MySQL Workbench to export your database. The issue with that is that you will only download the database itself. You will not download any of the attachments or pictures from your system. So you can do it, but then you would have to manually back up each of these directories and files. So the choice is yours. For me, it's easier to run a simple batch file and back it up, or run it manually before I upgrade my system, or just back up my system. Alright, so now that we backed up the inventory system, we want to upgrade. And it's very much similar to what we did when we first installed the Snipe-IT inventory system, with the exception that we don't have to install WAMP, and we are going to restore these files. Alright, so let's go through that process. So the first thing we want to do is we want to go to Snipe-IT, and we're going to download. And we want to download 5.0.11, which is already what I have. Okay, so we're going to go through that process. Now that we're here, let's talk about this for a moment. Let's say you were on 5.32 or something like that, or on 6.0.11, and the PHP version is much higher. It is important that you check your WAMP server installation to ensure that it can meet that requirement. So again, we're going to go to our WAMP server, and we are going to look for that PHP version. Now I should be okay for some time. Mine goes all the way up to 7.4.9. However, it's possible that other things within the WAMP server are no longer able to support the installation of the Snipe-IT inventory system. In that case, if that is to happen, you must back up your Snipe-IT inventory as we just did. So you want to back up the database, and you want to back up all those files, especially your .inv file and your pictures, your attachments, just like we did. And then you have to completely uninstall the WAMP server, and you're going to install a newer installation of WAMP server. So once you've met the requirements for your Snipe-IT installation, then we are ready to move on to installing Snipe-IT. So now that we're going to assume, and we are current, so this is the latest version of WAMP, and this is the latest version of Snipe-IT. So I'm going to download this. Now at the bottom here we have two source code packages or archives. The bottom one is only for Linux, and we're not running Linux, we're running this on Windows. So we're going to use the zip source code, and we're going to download that. And that'll take a moment here. And I'm just going to pause this while this is finishing downloading. Alright, we're back. So let's go take a look at that archive. It's in my download folder. So we're going to go to the downloads, and there it is. I'm going to just move it over to the desktop. Alright, and then I'm going to unarchive. And here's the unarchived content. Alright, now before we do anything else, let's go ahead and just change this to Snipe-IT. You could delete the old archive, and then we're going to go to our installation of WAMP, our old installation, WAMP www Snipe-IT. Now don't delete this folder. Now the reason I'm telling you not to delete this folder is because in the process of upgrading to a newer version, if something happens to go wrong, you could always revert to the old installation. So all we're going to do is rename it. We're just going to put a OLD on the end there, and then we're going to take the new Snipe-IT version, and we're going to move it into this directory. Alright, so I'm just going to refresh here. Alright, so here's our new version, and here's our old version. So now we need to move some files over from the old. Now we could do that by using this WAMP www Snipe-IT, and these are the folders and files that we need to move over, or we can just move them over from the old one, since basically this is a snapshot of what you have in here. But let's use the archive, and I'm going to use the archive only because it's easy for me to remember where they go, because I'm following this path: WAMP Snipe-IT, www Snipe-IT public. So I'm looking for the public folder in my new installation. So here's public. Alright, so if I double click on public, I want to place uploads. Let's see, uploads. Okay, so uploads. I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it and overwrite. It's fine. Then I'm going to go back, and I'm going to do the same thing for storage. So I need to go to Snipe-IT storage, Snipe-IT storage, and I'm going to copy. You'll notice that there's no OAuth files in here. I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it in here and replace. Alright, now all we have left is our .env file, arguably the most important file in this system. Okay, now here's something that you should be aware of. Snipe-IT from time to time will make modifications to the env file. So if we look at it, there are a bunch of entries in here, right? Well, over time, Snipe-IT will add or remove various entries from the system. So it's important that you compare the new .env file to your old one. So if you recall, we copied this over from our archive, which was our Snipe-IT here, and we moved it here. But this is a new installation, and if you recall from the our first presentation where we went through the process of installing Snipe-IT, we took the example or .env.example file and we made some changes to it, and then we saved it as a .env file. So this is the latest .env file, and this is our old .env file. So we need to compare the entries in these two files to make sure that nothing's changed. And if something has changed, then we need to modify our .env file so that it works with our current installation. So the app that I use to do that is WinMerge. So I'm going to go to my browser and type in download WinMerge, and you don't have to use this. Obviously you can do it manually, or if there is a different application that you like to use, you can certainly use that as well. So I'm going to download this one because it's what I like to use. I'm going to show in folder, and I'm going to run the installation. Just going to choose the default settings. Alright, and I'm going to launch it. So I'm going to go up to the top here and say open. Now what files do I want to compare? So I can compare file 1, file 2, file 3. I'm only going to compare 2 files. So I'm going to browse here for my env file, my new one, WAMP www Snipe-IT. Here's my new .env example file. I'm going to open that, and then at the bottom I'm going to open up the old one. Okay, so now I'm going to compare the new .env.example file against my .env file, my old one. So I'm going to compare. So everything in yellow is different. Now, just because it's yellow doesn't mean that it necessarily needs to be changed. For example, you'll notice when we install this, we created a key. So this is valid. I don't want to delete that. And obviously this is not configured yet, so it says change me, it needs a key. I don't want to change that. So you have to just go down the list and see what makes sense, what should be changed. It should be fairly obvious to you what should be changed. So let's go down the list here and see if anything needs to be changed. And in this case, nothing should be needed to be changed because I am on the same version. So the .env files are exactly the same. But over on the side here, you'll see that there's yellow, and that means that is what is different between the two files. So nothing else should be different. Okay. But if there is, make sure that your new your old .env file matches any of the new settings that are in the .env.example file. All right. And then of course, then save your changes. After you've done that, we'll need to run some commands. So I'm going to close this. I don't need that anymore. I don't need that anymore. Don't need that. Don't need that. And I don't need that. All right, so if we go back to the documentation, and we'll just walk through the process of getting there. Snipe-IT.app.com. And then we're going to go to the documentation area. And then you'll notice here we have upgrading. We're going to click on upgrading. And if we just scroll down, you'll see for Windows use. All right, this command right here is what you'll run to download the new installation files. To run this command, just keep in mind that we have to change our directory. Everything that you run runs from WAMP, WAMP, www, Snipe-IT. So let's go ahead and run our command prompt. We're going to change directory, and we're going to go to C, WAMP, www, Snipe-IT. Oop. I must have missed something. Oh, I missed a dash. Dash Snipe-IT. There we are. All right, so now I'm going to copy this command and run this script. Now you notice that everything is working fine in my download, and that's because I already have my token that's necessary to download the GitHub files, which we discussed in the first demo video, and I also have Git for Windows installed, which is an application that is found on Linux installations but is not native to Windows, but must be installed on Windows for this to work properly. So we're just going to go through the process of allowing this to complete downloading. I'm going to pause the video, and then we're going to come back to finish up the installation. All right, we're back. So Snipe-IT successfully downloaded and installed the necessary files. Now we have to run a few more commands. Each of these individually, we're going to copy composer, dump, auto load. I'm going to put that in there, hit enter. All right, and we're going to go to the next line. Now this application is in production, but it's not being used, so I'm going to run yes. Oh, it failed. And it failed because I don't have my WAMP server running, so it doesn't know how to connect. All right, so oh, it's right there. Let's run it. Some of the commands require that the WAMP server be running, others do not. It doesn't hurt to have the WAMP server running all the time. It's fine. Alright, so let's go back, and now we're going to run the clear command. And the cache command. Alright, just a little helpful hint for you. If you ever need to modify this .env file, make sure that you run these two commands here at the very end here, php artisan config :clear and php artisan config cache. That clears the cache in the system. That way it's receiving the new settings. If you see that there is a problem and you forgot to run these commands, go back and run these commands or restart the WAMP server. Alright, so what are we forgetting? We now have to install our database. So at this point, if you are comfortable using MySQL, you can certainly use the command prompt to import your MySQL database, but we're going to just assume that we're not comfortable using command line. So we're going to open a new tab in our browser, and we're going to download MySQL Workbench. Alright, and I'm going to choose Windows and 86 64-bit download. Now you may have to download, log into, you may have to create an account if you want to, but you can also just skip it and click on no thanks and start downloading. Alright, now that we have that, we're going to run that. And this is helpful for many different things when it comes to your database. You can use it to export your database, you can use it to import your database, but again, just keep in mind that if you use this to export your database, that it will not export any attachments or pictures. It's only exporting your database. So I'm going to launch the MySQL Workbench. Alright, you must have the WAMP server running for this to connect, or else it'll fail. So I'm going to click on here. Alright, so I want to import, data import and restore. It's found here, but it's also found under server data import. Okay, before we move any further, let me just show you a helpful hint, because it could fail. What Workbench, MySQL Workbench uses is a file called MySQL dump, and so if it doesn't know where that file resides, it will fail. So let's go to Edit and go to Preferences, and then go to Administration. So this is where it's going to look for that file, okay? But that is not where my WAMP installation is found, so let's go and find it. Alright, so we need to go to C WAMP www Snipe-IT. Oh, I'm going way too far. Let's go back. Let's go back. Alright, so C WAMP bin MySQL, my current version, and then here bin. Then we're looking for MySQL dump. There it is, MySQL dump, open. Okay, now we're good. Now we should be good to go. So now we're going to import, and we're going to import a self-contained file. We're going to find our SQL database. We're going to open it, and then we need to specify what database to import it into, and we are going to import it into Snipe-IT or whatever installation, whatever your database name is. If you follow along my initial demo, we created it under Snipe-IT. If it doesn't show up, you can also hit new and put the name in manually, and it will attempt to find that database. So we're going to just select that. We want to import the data structure and data, or dump structure and data, and we are going to start import. Put in your root password if you've created one, and now it's attempting to import the data, and it finished, and it's nice and green. That means it's successful, and we're done here. Alright, so what did we do differently here? So we didn't have to go through the pre-flight all over again. We didn't have to generate a key. If you recall, your Snipe-IT inventory database is encrypted, and a key is generated to unencrypt the content. But we didn't have to redo any of our settings here, because we just carried this over. All we had to do was move over our content from the old installation into the new installation, and then run the commands to use get to copy down the new files and import our database. Alright, so let's see if it works. Let's go to localhost and ERPS admin and my password, and there we are, and we're back on 5.0.11. For just just to go through an example, let's say our installation failed. We go back here. Let's give this a new name. Let's say failed. And then we just go here, rename it to Snipe-IT. Let's go ahead and restart our Snipe-IT installation. Restart. Green is good. Alright, now let's launch our browser once again, and let's see if we could still get to that old installation. ARPS admin, and there we are. This is our old installation. Alright, so there you have it. Hopefully this was helpful, and maybe we'll create some videos on how to use Snipe-IT in the future. Until then, see ya.